Planning and implementing an IPv4 network. First, overview of IPv4 setting. First, it is dotted decimal notation are based on the decimal number system, but computer use IP addresses in binary. Remember, computers are the digital machines, and digital machines, all the digital machines used a binary system. Binary system, it is actually they use the digital language, and digital language are they are having bits. Bits are registers. They are having the registers, which is like bits. They have memory or they don't have a memory. So when they have a memory or not have a memory is represented by the binary language, where we have only two numbers, 0 and 1. So 0 and 1, when we say 0, that means there is no memory. When we say 1, that is a memory, and that memory will be represented by the decimal value. Now, because we human don't understand these language, binary language or machine language, so for us we use the decimal number. So decimal number is used for us to for notate this to understand this binary or to explain the binary or this machine language. Now the IPv4 is the dotted decimal notation and it is based on the decimal number system. So decimal number system, so that we can understand it. And this is dotted decimal because it is divided into 4 parts, and each part consists of 8 bits. That means it is divided into 4 parts of 8 bits of binary. Like you have 8 bits here, then dot, then 8 bit, dot, then 8 bit, dot, and then 8 bit. So this is what the IPv4 looks like. Now when within an 8-bit octet, each bit position has decimal values. So a bit that is set to 0 always has a 0 value. So when the bit is off, so it will not count. It will not count, it will remain always 0. So all these 8 bits will remain, they have their own, based on the position, they have the decimal value. So when the bit is off, that means they are remain 0, they will not get any value. But when the bit is set to 1, it can be converted to a decimal value. So the low order bit represent the decimal value of 1 and the high order bit represent the decimal value of 128. That means this is the low order bit and this is the high order. So it is all the 8 bits we have for the IP address 1 part. Each part of the IP address, which is 4 parts of IP addresses, and each part has 8 bits, and this is what the 8 bits decimal value. So if all bits and octet are set to 1, then the octet decimal value is 255 and the highest possible value of an octet. That means when you enable all these bits, this is the decimal value of the bits. Now when this bit is on, you will get 1, and if this bit is off, then you will not count, it will remain 0. 0, that means it is not on, this is not on, this is off, on, this is not on, this is not on, this is not on. So what value you will get? You will count this value, this is 1, you will count 1, this will remain 0 because it is not on, this will remain 0, it will not on, this will remain 0, but this is on, so you will count this. So 16 plus 1, it is 17, then this is remains 0, this remains 0, and this remains 0. So what value we get? We get 17 here. This is the decimal value, and this is the binary value for that decimal. Now we can see this, like this is the 8 bits octet. Now 8 bits is also call it octet. Octet, where you have 7 numbers, 0 to 0, from 0 to 7. This is also a numbering system. So where 8 bits are there, it is also called the octet. So 0 bit, 1 bit, 2 bits, 3 bits, 4th, 5th and 6th and 7th bit. So these decimal values are coming from where? It is coming from giving a power of 2. So when you raise 2 to 0, you will get 1. That is why the first bit value is 1. The second bit value is coming from this. When you raise 2 raised to 1, you will get 2. Then so on, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. It can go more. It can go more than 128. It can next value will be 2 raised to 8. 2 raised to 8, it will be the 8th bit, and then it will be count as a 2 raised to, it will count 256. But for IP address we will not go more than this 128, because in one part we have only 8 bits, so only it will go up to 128. And when you combine all these values, you will get 255. When you enable all these bits, the total value will be 255. That means in each part of the IP address it can go 0 from 255. All the numbers will be either 0 or it can go up to 255. So each network computer must be assigned a unique IPv4 address, and network communication for a computer is directed to the IPv4 addresses of the computer. Each IPv4 address contains network ID, identify the network, and host ID identifying the computer. The subnet mask identify which part of the IPv4 address is the network ID and which is the host ID. As you see in the subnet mask, network IDs are showing as a 255. 255, that means all the bits are on there. And host ID is the 0, that means what? All the bits are off. So in the subnet mask defined first the subnet mask defined that what is the network part. Like 255, that means it is the network part. So the IP address which we are seeing here, this is what is a network address. It is a network part. And the 0 of the subnet mask define that this is the host address. So we can say that this IP is having this host address. So subnet mask define what is the network part and what is the host part, and in subnet mask when the 255 is there, that means it is network, and 0 means it is host. So 0 means there is no bit on, and then 255 means the all bits are on. And this IPv4 rule, simple rule, it says that when we have two machines, if we have two machines here and we are connected to these two machines or three machines, now if all these three machines need to be connected to each other, then they will use what? They will use the IP addresses to connect to each other. Now they can do the communication only when they are having the same network address. Now if they are having the same network part and the host part will be different, it can be any, so they can do the communication, they will consider as a single network. But if one machine is having another network part and the other machine is having other network part, then they will not be considered as a same network. Either they are connected to the same network, same physical network, but still they will be considered as a separate logical network, and they will not do the communication. If you try to connect to the other machine, you will get the error. It will say it is not connected. So in IPv4 configuration, it is identify the computer to the computer on the network by using the network ID. So if suppose this is what the dotted decimal representation of the address of the subnet mask, like this is the subnet mask, it says these three first parts are the network part. So this three part must be same on the other machines. So for example, this machine is having 192.168.1, so all these other machines are also having the same 192.168.1. The last host part is different. This is 80, 180, 181, and this is 182. So they can still consider as a single subnet because they are having the same network ID, same network IP. But if the network IP is different, then they will not be considered in the same network. Now this IPv4 is divided into multiple classes, where we have class A, class B, class C, and also class D and E. But D and E we don't use. It is actually for D is for the multicasting and E is for the research and development. So commercially we can only use this class A, B and C. Now class A is for the large network, class B is for the medium network, and for the small network we have class C. In class A we have network ID, first 8 bit as a network ID, and rest of the 8 bits like 24 bits as a host ID. So you can see that we have network ID, small network ID, but we have large number of host IDs, so that we get the large number of host IPs, and then it is defined for the large network. Then in class B it is for the medium network. That is why we are having less host IDs. We have the 16 bit as a host ID and 16 bit for the network. So here we get the more network than the host, and we get the less number of hosts, but still we get more host than the class C. In class C we get less host because it is for the small network, but we get more network IDs. So network IDs are more, it is using 24 bits, and host ID is only using 8 bits. So we get less number of hosts but more number of networks. Now within all these 24 bit, 32 bit, if you combine all the bits, this is 8, this is 8, this is 8, and this is 8, like X, Y, Z, the W, X, Y, Z. So all you combine, it will get total number of 32 bits. So all these 32 bits, this first bit is in class A is reserved, it must be 0, you cannot enable this. These are reserved by the INA. INA is the organization which is working on these IP addresses. So they have defined this reserve, you cannot change it, it always remains 0. In class B, the first 2 bits are reserved as 1, 0. You cannot change it, you cannot make this 0, you cannot make this 1, or you cannot make both zeros, you cannot make both 1. First bit always remain 1 and the second bit always remains 0. This is default. And for this class C, these 3 bits are reserved. First 2 bits will remain 1 and the third bit will remain 0. You cannot change it. These are reserved. Now for example, this is the class B address with subnet. So this, when you increase the bit for the host, so the host number of hosts will increase. Like for example, when you have this network ID, this subnet mask 255.255.255.0, so when you have only 8 bit for host, you will get what? You will get usable host of 254. Total subnet host you will get 256. But the usable host you will get 254. It is very small size because it is for class C. Now if you increase the host bit, the host usable host and the subnet will also start increasing. As you can see, the number of hosts will increase when you increase the host bit. Like for example, you see it is changing, and as these bits are going low, network bits are going low, these hosts are getting increased. Now in class B, you have these 2 parts as a network and this part is also as a host. Now in this you will get what? Total number of this usable host, and the subnets you will get total number of 1 in one network. Now in IPv4 configuration, it defines the computer to the other computers on the network. So if suppose, as I said, if the network ID is different, then they will consider as a different subnet. So if suppose one subnet is having the network ID of 192.168.1 based on the subnet mask, so all these are having the same subnet because they are having the same network part. Now in the other machine, in the other subnet, if you have this, you can see 192.168.2. now they are having the different network ID. So different network ID based on the subnet mask, they are having the different network IDs, all these machines. So because of that, they will consider as a different subnet. Now instead they are connected to the same route, same switch. If suppose they are connected to the same switch, still they will not do the communication, because switch only used to do the communication within the network. It cannot do the communication outside of the network. Like this is one subnet and this is the other subnet. So switches can't do the communication between two different subnets, two different logical networks. So for communicating two different logical networks, we have to use the routers. Router's job is to connect two different networks. It defined as a default gateway and preferred router. So we define the gateway on these machines. When we configure the IP addresses, we will define the gateway address for this router. On this subnet also, when we configure the IP addresses, we will define the gateway of this router. That means we say that within the network you will do the communication, but if you want to go out of this subnet, then you can go out from this gate, and that is why it is called gateway. And for the subnet 2 also, you can do the communication within the subnet, but if you want to go out of the subnet, then you can go out from this gate, this gateway, and the gateway is the router. And we can create multiple different subnets. Like we have, this is the hierarchical way, this is the one subnet. You can see /20. Now /20, it is what? It is actually CIDR value. It is called CIDR value, and it is only the representation of how many bits are enabled in subnet mask. It is a representation of how many bits are enabled in the subnet mask. So if it is saying 20, that means first 8 bits are on, then second 8 bits are on, that means 16. Then from this 8 bits, we have 4 bits on, then 4 bits are off in the same part, and then here all the 4 bits are off, all the 8 bits are off. So total enable bits we have is 20. So 20 means we have the subnets here based on 20, like 4 bits are on, extra 4 bits apart from the default. So what we get? 2 raised to 4 networks here, and 2 raised to 4 means 8. So we are getting 8 networks in these subnets, and so on. We can create different subnets here. These are routers, they are defining the different subnets, and then we can connect them together. Now when we talk about the IP addresses, so in the IP addresses we have class A, B and C which we use. Now in that we have two types of addresses, public and private, and also APIPA addresses. Now public addresses are what? Addresses which is required by the devices and hosts that connect directly to the internet. So if your machine, if your device wants to connect the internet, then you have to have the public address. Otherwise your machine, your device will not be able to connect the internet directly. Then must be globally unique, and we need that this public address, and because we are connecting this internet by using the public address, that is why the public address must be globally unique. That means what IP you are using, it should not be used by any other machine in the all over the world. It must be unique, and that is why it is going to be registered. So it is going to be registered and must be assigned by the INA registers. So the INA is assigned the registers to assign this IP. So when you want to have a public IP, you will get the public IP from the INA and registers of the IP addresses, and when you get one IP, it is going to be registered in your name, so that nobody else in the world will get the same IP. And that is why it is the routable IP on the internet. That means these public IPs can work on internet, and it is routable on internet. It can go through the internet. But private IPs cannot be used for the internet. It is not routable on the internet, and can be assigned locally by an organization. Like if you don't want to connect to internet, you just want to use the IP address to connect locally, then you can use the private IP address. And if you want to go to internet with the private IP, then you need to be translated to access the internet, translated to the public IP. So you have to configure the NAT, that is network address translation, on the router gateway, so that you can go to internet. And that means you will do what? You will translate the private IP to public IP. So basically you are not going with the private IP, you are going only with the public IP, but only that your private IP is translated by the router to go to internet. Now this is the range of the private IP we have in all three classes. Class A, we have this range 10.0.0.0/8. Then in class B we have 172.16.0.0/12. Then in class C we have 192.168.0.0/16. This is the range we have for the private IP addresses in class A, B and C. This is for class A, this is from class B, and this is from class C. Now creating the subnet. That means if you have one network IP or one network, then you can divide it into subnetworks, and you can do that by using the subnet mask. So it is called, we can say it is supernetting. It is combining the multiple small networks into a large network. The networks that you combine must be contiguous. The following table shows an example of supernetting to class C network, host bits underlined. Now we do the subnetting, and also what we can do the supernetting. Now this is an example of supernetting, where we do what? We combine multiple network addresses to create a single network. This is what we do on routers to explain our network. If suppose in our network we have one area here, and in the area we have multiple different networks. Now when we have a router here which is connecting our area into internet or other areas, so the routing table which our router will send, it will become a big routing table. That means it will have these networks, all the network information will be there in the routing table, and this router will send that routing table to other areas or all the internet. Now that routing table become big, and we want to reduce the routing table, then we use this supernetting. So what we do, actually we combine the multiple different networks to create a single network, and then we send that single network information to other area. Now when that information sent to that area, those routers or devices on that area will understand that all these networks are there in this area. So we can do that by using this method. We have to just count a number of we can say the number of same bits. So for example, this is what 192.168.0 here it is, this bit is on, that means it is what 16.255.0/24. Now here there is no supernetting. It is saying that from 16.0.0 to 255, this is the single network I am sending. Now if we want to send multiple networks, this is also a single network for 17. Now this is what we are adding multiple networks here. Now we want to add both this network, this 16 and 70, and we want to send only one network. Like if I want to send the routing table separately, then I will send these two networks separately. Now instead of sending these two networks separately, what we can do, we can send them in a single network. And what I will send this. So what it will become, and you can see the common bits here. So what you will do, you will remove the common bits, and then rest of the bits you will count. How many common bits we have? 8, and from here we have 7. Total is 23. So we will send this like 192.168.16, and then we will send it /23. Then anyone who gets this network, they know that we are talking about these two subnets. This is what the super netting, we do it on router, we normally not do it in our Windows 10 or Windows Server machine. Now for configuring the IP address, what we do, we can configure it from our Internet Protocol version 4 properties. We are TCP IP, TCP/IP, IPv4 properties. We can go on to select this. Then one option is to select the IP address, obtain the IP address automatically, and we can go for the alternate configuration also, and we can configure it manually also. Manually, that means we can configure static IP addresses, and static IP address manually we configure the IP address which we want to configure, then we configure the subnet mask, then the gateway address if we have any router, and then we configure the DNS server IP. Then if we want the advanced, then we can go for the advanced configuration where we can add multiple IP addresses. Like we have a one IP address added here, so we can add more IP addresses here. So in a single interface, in a single adapter, we can add multiple IP addresses. We can add multiple DNS addresses here. We can add multiple DNS addresses here. We can configure the other settings related to DNS. We can configure the prefix, domain address here, domain name here. We can register this connection address in DNS. So by default, when you configure, when you save it, it is going to register the address into the DNS. By default, we selected the append primary and connection specific DNS suffix. Append the parent suffix of the parent DNS suffix. So if it is connected to DNS, so it will add and append the parent DNS settings here, like this domain name automatically. Then if we have the Win server available, then we can configure the Win server also. Right now we don't use Win server, it is an old kind of server, same as DNS, but right now we use DNS, but we don't use Win servers. But if suppose there is an application in an organization which was configured on the time of Wins and it only support Wins, then you have to configure the Win server also, and then you have to add the Win server address also. This is for the enabling the LM host lookup, that is the NetBIOS name lookup. Then you have the NetBIOS setting also, which is enabled by default. If you want, then you can disable it also. Then we can configure the IP address through the command line. We can configure it through the command line, or we can configure it through the PowerShell commands also. For the command line, we can use the netsh command. Netsh, then interface IPv4 set address. We have to mention the interface name there, the local area connection or whatever the name you have. Then you can define whether you want to assign the IP address statically or dynamically. Dynamically, that means DHCP. So static, that means you have to mention the address by yourself with the subnet mask and the gateway. Then netsh IP, you will set DNS, you want to set the DNS address. Then you want to you have to give the name of your interface. Static you want to configure, and then you will configure the name of your IP address of your DNS server. Then also you can add the more DNS server addresses. Then for the PowerShell command, you can use new net IP address command to add the IP address with the interface alias. You can mention the name of the interface here. Then you will mention -IP address for the IP address. Prefix length, that means your subnet mask will be whatever your subnet mask is. Then the gateway address you will mention by this option. Then we can mention the DNS server. For that you will use the command set DNS client server address with the interface alias name, and then the server addresses you will add as many addresses you have. Like this is the one address of DNS server, this is the alternate address for the DNS server. So this is the PowerShell command and the command line tool which we can use to configure the IP addresses. Then we can configure the IP addresses automatically also. Automatically, that means we will get the IP address from the DHCP server. DHCP server, that means that is a server which configure the IP address information on the client. So if the client machine wants the IP address, it will send the request to DHCP server, and then DHCP server will allocate the IP address. So for getting the IP address from the DHCP server, what we have to do, we have to configure the machine to get the IP address from DHCP. So what we do, we will use this PowerShell command, or in a graphical tool we can just select the automatic IP address. In command line we will set the IP address with the network interface name, and then we just have to configure DHCP enable. Then restart the adapter with the name. So when you restart the adapter, so if it is having an IP address, then it will go on to select the DHCP to get the IP address. Now if the DHCP is not there, if the DHCP is not available to give the IP address, and we want the IP address, we set the DHCP to get the IP address from DHCP, then our Windows machine will do what? It will get the IP address through the APIPA. APIPA is the automatic private IP addresses. So it do what? It will use a range of APIPA to get the IP address. It will actually assign itself an IP address from the APIPA range. So it interface indicates that the DHCP server could not be connected. So when the APIPA, when interface is having the APIPA addresses, that means it is not able to connect the DHCP server. Now in that case, we have to make sure the DHCP server is running, and then we will just restart the interface. So when we restart the interface, it will try to reconnect the reconnect the DHCP server and try to get the IP address from that DHCP server. Now managing and troubleshooting IPv4 connectivity for table routing between IPv4 networks. So IPv4 subnets are typically separated by the routers. So if we have two subnets, three subnets, so they will be separated by the routers, because only the router can do the communication between two separate IP networks. So the router is responsible for handling the incoming and outgoing IPv4 traffic and delivering the IPv4 traffic to the intended destination. So routers send traffic to the destination based on the set of data called routing table. So all the routers has their own routing tables. In the routing tables, they have an information about all the other networks connected to that router. So based on the routing table, it will forward the data to that particular network. So routing tables contains the following information about the router route for a specific interface. That is, for example, network destination, like where the network is, the net mask, the subnet mask, the gateway, so where to go that network, and then interface and metric. That means these two routers, like suppose this is our one router, this is our second router, they are connected together and they are connected to their own networks. So in the routing table, they have information about the destination, like this router knows about this destination network, and then it know about the subnet mask of this destination network. Then it also knows the gateway. Gateway, that means the router's interface address where it can go to this network. Then also it knows about the interface, that means which interface of the router it can use to go to this network. So it use this interface of router to go to this network. And also the matrix. Now matrix is defined by the different routing protocols or even a static route. So when we configure the routing here on these routers, it defines the matrix also. Matrix defines that how we can reach the other network and how distance it is. Like if you configure statically, so the by default matrix will be 1 for the static network. For the connected network, the matrix will be 0. Now this is the default one, and then depends on the routing protocol, the matrix will differ. So that is the information is available in the routing table of the router. Now how you can use the several method to view and modify the table. So we can use the root command to see and add the routing table. So we can use root add to add the new network. Now this is what we can do in our Windows machine. If we are configuring our Windows machine as a router which is connected to our network, and we are using our Windows machine as a router, So if we want to use the Windows machine as a router, so we can connect the Windows machine to the different network, and we can create the root here. We can give the root command to create the root, which is having the destination network. Then this is the subnet mask of the destination network, and this is the gateway information where to go. We can also use the PowerShell command to get the root, to create the new root, and to set the root with the Windows PowerShell. To get the root, we can run this command to see the root. The routing and remote access console, it is used to do the configuration of routing. So basically, when we want to configure our Windows server as a router, so we will configure the routing and remote access services on this Windows server. So we can use this Windows server as a router. And for the troubleshooting methodology, one methodology is to ask a series of questions about the nature of the issues. So basically, to do the troubleshooting, we should ask these questions. Can you duplicate the issue? That means if the issue is on one machine, so can we create the same issue in the other machine? So we can know that this is the problem. Then what is working and what is not working? We should see what is working and what is not working. Sometimes some part is working and something is not working. So we should see what is working and what is not working. Then how are the things that work, do not work related? So how they are working and do not work related information. Now does it work for other system on the network? Like if the problem is happening on one machine, so is it happening on the other machine also? Then has it worked in the past, or has it worked in the before past in this like this machine itself, it was working but now it is not working. So what has changed since last work? So we can see that what was changed. So last time when it was working on this machine, since then what we have changed, either the configuration, either the hardware change. So we should see what are the changes happened after that was working, and that is because the change, maybe it is not working. Then we can use the troubleshooting tools, like we can use the IP config to check the IP address information. Then we can use the ping command to check the connectivity. We can use the traceset or path ping to check the trace the path of the network, like where the machine is reaching till where. Then we can use the telnet also to try to connect the remote machine protocol, it is working or not. Then we can use the net state command to see what are the services running, what are the what services our system is listening, what protocol our system is listening. We can use the resource monitor also. We can use the network diagnostic tool also. And also we should check the event viewer to see the problem. Then for PowerShell, we have these commands. We have the option to get the network adapter information. We can restart the network adapter if it is not working. We can get the IP interface information, IP address information, root information, connection profile, DNS client cache. We can see the client server addresses. We can register the DNS client. If it is not resolving the name, maybe it is not registering the IP address in DNS. So we can run this command to register the DNS information, IP information to the DNS server. We can set the DNS client information. We can set the DNS global setting, client server address. If it is not having a DNS address set, so we can set the DNS address. We can change the IP address, change the protocol. We can change the interface IP. We can test the connection. It is just like ping. We can test the net connection. We can try to resolve the DNS name, whether it is a problem of the DNS. Then many PowerShell commands are similar to the traditional command line tools. So to check the network communication, we run what? Get net IP address, same as what IP config we do in Windows command line. To check the routing, we run the test net connection trace route. In Windows command shell, you can run traceset. So traceset is same as this PowerShell command. To check for the response, like we get the test net connection, we use the ping command. So these commands are same as PowerShell. This is our planning and implementing about the IPv4 network, and also troubleshooting. If you have a problem, so you can do some troubleshooting, we have seen. So this is the overview of IPv4.